everyone. I am very new to this, so I'm gonna start off by telling you a little bit about me and my family. First, I'll say me and my husband Wade have been together for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years this year. Have been married for 3 this year as well. In October, it will be 3 years. And most of our relationship has been trying to conceive children, which, if you can see by my intro, I have successfully had 2 beautiful boys. As you can tell, they are very, very far apart in age. We did not plan for that at all. And I will get to that in some other updates. Keep the suspense, I guess. Anyways, with my first, I should start with when I was 16, I was put on the Depo shot, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, I'd assume. Unfortunately for me, it caused a severe reaction in my body and caused numerous cysts, very large ones. And I had a cyst the size of a grapefruit that exploded and damaged the whole right side of my reproductive system. They told me I had about 20% chance of having kids in the future. I stopped the Depo shot and I have never been on birth control since. When I met my husband, he was 21 and I was 22. We weren't even dating a year, and we conceived our first son, Mikey. He was born July 29th of 2011. And I didn't find out I was pregnant with him until 13 weeks along. I was testing every 2 weeks. I charted. We were definitely trying for this baby because I pretty much wanted to prove the doctors wrong and was hoping that my body had fixed itself after 8 years of not being on any contraceptive. And we were successful. My first ultrasound blew our minds because I was thinking I was, 2 to 6 weeks pregnant. Well, no, I wasn't. There was he looked fully developed, just very tiny. Had his hands, fingers, everything. Didn't look like the normal first ultrasound that you get where it's just a little peanut. I knew he was a boy right away. I had dreams about him when I was 16. I also predicted his birthday and the time he was born, and I was correct, which is pretty scary. Mom's tuition, it's fine. And the pregnancy was pretty difficult for me. I gained a lot of weight. I have a very small frame, or I did at that age, and pregnancy just didn't work for my body. Caused a lot of issues. And when I was 7 months along, I checked myself into the ER for some pain. And they had told me that I had an elevated white blood cell count, which pretty much tells me that I had an infection somewhere. And they sent me home with nothing. They said, you should be fine, and blah, blah, blah. Now, fast forward to when I went into labor, and I was admitted into labor and delivery. I had a full birth plan to do all natural, no drugs, vaginal birth. It's just what I've always wanted to do. I figured if my mom can do it, I can do it. Little did I know that infection that they could have got rid of 3 months prior was actually a microscopic leak in my son's amniotic sac that caused an infection in my uterus lining. So after they popped my water, they knew I had a pretty severe infection. Needless to say, my body shut down at 5 centimeters. I could not, this is about 14 hours of labor, all natural, no drugs. They told me I needed an emergency C-section because my body was under attack by my white blood cells and I had a 104-degree fever and they needed to get him out immediately. Scariest thing I could have ever imagined. My father was actually in the room when they told me, and when I started bawling and I couldn't even give the doctor an answer, he just jumped up and was right by my side, which made me feel a lot better. My husband was great throughout the whole thing. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but he was there and he was very supportive the whole time as well. I ended up needing the C-section. It was an emergency C-section. He was born at 6:38 p.m. and I was not able to see him or hold him until I got back out of the recovery and into my room, which was about 8:30. It was a horrible experience, pretty much, and I blame it on the hospital. And after they took him out, they realized that the infection was way more severe in my uterus lining than they had anticipated. And they had to scrape the inside of my uterus to get rid of the infection. And I was pumped full of antibiotics for 6 days. 6 days I spent in the hospital. It was awful. About a year after my first son, we started trying again. We wanted them close in age, obviously. That did not work out. My doctor told me that I had some severe scarring from the scraping of my uterus, and having another child without help would be nearly impossible. Which, as you can imagine, I'm sure a lot of you have had been told that a few times, if not your whole life. And it was devastating. I felt less of a woman. I felt like I failed at life, even though I already had one child. I knew I wanted more. When I was a kid, I knew I wanted 4. I wanted 4 children. And little did I know, it started our journey of trying to conceive. And it was a very long 5 years of constant testing, constant ovulation test. I mean, I've seen so many negative pregnancy tests that I hate even looking at them. I hate even taking them. Staring at it, and your eyes play tricks and you think you see a positive, and it's just an evap line and everything that everybody's familiar with that has infertility issues. I felt cheated because mine weren't necessarily my fault. But I wasn't going to give up, and neither was my husband. We got married in October, and we had our first fertility appointment it was January. It was January, I believe. And I had an HSG done after all the other stuff they did prior. Everything looked good. They said that I was pretty much diagnosed with unexplained infertility. And that was devastating as well, because I was going there to figure out why I can't conceive, and then to be told they don't know, that we shouldn't have any problems. My husband's sperm analysis came back perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. We didn't have to do any genetic testing on either of us, because we have already conceived a child together naturally. And they pretty much, they set up an what's next appointment. So I had my HSG done in February, right after my period. And February, and that was at the end of February, so it was like February 25th or something like that. And about 2 weeks later, I decided to take a test, and lo and behold, it was a very faint positive. Now, this is the first positive test I have seen in 5.5 years. So it was so emotional. I couldn't even control myself. It was like 5:15 in the morning, and I called my best friend, crying hysterically. She couldn't even understand what I was saying. I said, we finally did it. And she knew right away what I was talking about. And we're both crying and screaming on the phone. And the next step was to tell my husband. Though I didn't get the reaction I wanted, you know, the ones that you see on YouTube where they just like cry or they like get super excited. Mine was just kind of like dumbfounded. Like, are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. Anyways, my pregnancy was going well until I was about 6 weeks along, and I had a beta draw to check my levels. My first level came back at 18, so I had literally pretty much, that baby had just implanted when I took that test. And they told me not to get my hopes up. And I told myself, no, this baby's meant to be here. I don't care what you have to say. And I had about 4 or 5 more beta draws after that. And after my 5th one, which was when I was like 6 weeks, they told me it was completely negative. And that, listen, I called them and argued with them. I said, I'm still pregnant. How can I have a negative blood test and a positive urine test? That doesn't make any sense to me, because a urine test is not as sensitive as a blood draw, obviously. I said, I'm not bleeding. I don't believe you guys. My doctor said I could come in and do one more beta draw just to ease my mind before I took a pill that they wanted to give me to pretty much induce the bleeding to get rid of the dead fetus, pretty much. I was completely against it. I just felt wrong about it. I still felt pregnant. The emotional downfall I went through during that time really took a toll on me and my body. I don't wish that on anybody. Not even my worst enemy. And I don't have those, but you get what I'm saying. I had the test redone, and my doctor called me at about 9:30 at night, after hours. Never had a doctor call me that time of night, ever. And my heart sunk. Like, why is he calling me? He called and he said, don't come in Friday to get the pill. This was Wednesday he called me. Don't come in on Friday to get the the pill because you are very much pregnant still. Oh, I am. Okay, that's great. After I've been crying for a week, hysterically, uncontrollably, just a hot mess. My levels were over 10,000. Over 10,000. How did you get a negative 2 days ago and then 2 days after you get 10,000? That doesn't even make sense to me. Long story short, the lab's messed up. I should still go after whoever did them for their job, but you know what? I'm just happy I have a healthy baby boy out of the whole thing. And to sum up all of this, my little peanut is now, he just turned 1 in November. I was able to do a VBAC. For anybody that is not familiar with that, that is a vaginal birth after cesarean section. I obviously stopped going to that hospital that told me I was miscarrying and also left me with an infection with my first child. And I refused to ever step foot in that hospital again. But anyways, I was able to do all natural, and I was able to experience the full birthing experience that I originally wanted to have with my first child. Him and my firstborn, they are 6.5 years apart, which is good, actually. It's a lot easier. But we do intend to try for our third child soon, and I'd like to take you guys on that adventure because I don't know how it's gonna go. I honestly have no idea. Obviously, I want a girl. My husband is completely against it, like he has a choice. But anyways, I will do some more videos and get you guys all caught up with everything. Stuff that I have left out that just might be a little bit too long, too annoying to watch the whole thing. We are going to start trying in May. It's just kind of a ways away, but I figured I'll take the time to get everybody updated on everything in my life. I wish I would have known about stuff like this YouTube channel and everything years ago, because that would have been a lot more fun, I think. And I would have had support where I had none. I had no support, really. None of my friends had issues. I mean, their husbands looked at them and they got pregnant. They didn't understand. They didn't understand what I was going through. I guess you really don't unless you're going through it yourself. So I guess I'm going to say goodbye. I will upload some more videos soon. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to go on this journey with me, subscribe. Thank you.